These are 28 wrestlers who refuse to work together. Number 1, CM Punk and Triple H. By the end of 2013, CM Punk was already visibly burnt out, his body was breaking down, creative wasn't clicking, and he was losing interest in a system that he believed was actively working against him. So when WWE approached him with a WrestleMania 30 plan that involved facing Triple H, Punk didn't just say no, he walked out the door and never looked back, at least not for nearly a decade. Punk later revealed the details in his infamous tell-all podcast with Colt Cabana, the same one that got him slapped with a lawsuit. According to Punk, when he was told that his big Mania moment would be with Triple H, he felt insulted. In his eyes, it wasn't just a creative misfire, it was symbolic of everything that he thought was wrong with the company's priorities. He believed the focus should be on the younger talent, and the idea of working with Triple H, especially after years of real-life tension, was a deal breaker. To be fair, Punk's frustrations weren't solely about Hunter. He was dealing with injuries, lack of medical support, and a general sense that he was being creatively stifled. But his refusal to wrestle Triple H was the final straw, and it lit the fuse on one of the most talked about walkouts in wrestling history. Ironically, fast forward to 2023 and CM Punk returned to WWE now under Triple H's leadership, and shockingly, Punk has nothing but praise for the game. Apparently, time heals all wounds, or at least smooths them over enough to get a few more dream matches in before retirement. Number 2, Bob Backlin refusing to work with Hulk Hogan. Before Hulkamania could run wild, Vince McMahon had one very real problem. Bob Backlin still held the WWE Championship, and he wasn't giving it up to Hulk Hogan. Backlin was the company's all-American, no-nonsense babyface for nearly 6 years. He saw wrestling as a legitimate sport, not an entertainment act, and when McMahon Jr. came knocking with plans to shift toward a flashier, more spectacle-driven future, Backlin did not want any part of it. Specifically, he refused to drop the title to Hogan, who he felt was too phony to beat him. This wasn't just a private opinion either. Backlin outright rejected the idea. In his mind, Hogan had not earned the right to be seen as a credible champion, and letting him win would tarnish the integrity of the belts. So Vince got creative, and instead of forcing the issue, he inserted the Iron Sheik as a transitional champion. Iron Sheik would submit Bob Backlin with a camel clutch after Bob's manager threw in the towel, and just weeks later, he dropped the title to Hulk Hogan, kickstarting an entirely new era for the WWE. Backlin's refusal was number 3, Randy. All it took was one bad night with Randy Orton to end it all. In 2009, Mr. Kennedy returned from injury and he wrestled Randy Orton on an episode of Raw, and that is when everything fell apart. During the match, Kennedy delivered a back suplex that caused Orton to land awkwardly, and Randy immediately popped up and was visibly upset and let his frustration show in the ring. To him, this wasn't just a sloppy move, but instead it was dangerous. Backstage, he didn't keep quiet either. He reportedly stormed into Vince McMahon's office and voiced his concerns, arguing that Kennedy was unsafe to work with. Johnson had joined him to back up these claims, and together they would convince McMahon that Kennedy wasn't just a liability to them, but he was a liability to the company. Mr. Kennedy was already on thin ice due to past injuries and suspensions, so he never got another chance. That Raw match turned out to be his last. Just days later, he was released from WWE, and in later interviews, Kennedy would confirm it himself. Randy Orton did not want to work with him, and that sealed his fate. One moment, one mistake, and one top star refusing to share the ring with you, and that's all it took. Number 4, Stone Cold and Jeff Jarrett. When you're the hottest star in wrestling, you get to call your own shots, and in the late 90s, nobody was hotter than Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, when the WWE tried to build a potential feud between Austin and Jeff Jarrett, it never got off the ground for one very personal reason. It all started with a promo on Raw is War in 1997. Jeff Jarrett grabbed a microphone and went off script, ripping into Austin's now iconic Austin 316 catchphrase. He accused Austin of blasphemy and claimed that the Bible was not something to be used to just sell t-shirts. But here's the catch: Austin never approved that promo, and he was furious. That heat wasn't just about those words, it also went deeper. Austin had long-standing issues with Jeff's Lesnar's father, Jerry Jarrett, dating back to their time in the United States Wrestling Association. Austin felt that Jerry underpaid him and treated him like he was expendable, all while living comfortably and giving Jeff every opportunity possible, and that resentment boiled over in WWE. So when the idea of an Austin versus Jarrett feud came up, Stone Cold put his foot down. No matter what plans the company had, he flat out refused to work with Jeff, and that was that. Jeff's push evaporated, Austin's word carried too much weight, and without his cooperation, there was no story to tell. One unscripted promo and a grudge that stretched back years quietly ended any hope that the feud ever had of happening. Number 5, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Brock Lesnar. Stone Cold Steve Austin has never been shy of protecting his value, and in 2002, that meant saying hell no to a match with a rookie Brock Lesnar. WWE had penciled in a King of the Ring qualifying match for an episode of Raw where Austin was supposed to lose clean to Lesnar. Without a build-up, without a storyline, no big payoff, just boom. Stone Cold goes down for free on TV, and that did not sit well with Austin at all. Not because he didn't want to work with Brock, because he knew that Brock had potential. He openly said that Lesnar was the guy. But instead, it was because the moment was being completely wasted. In Austin's eyes, giving away a money match like that with zero build-up was just bad business. So what did he do? He didn't show up. Austin walked out before the match could happen and did not return for months, sparking one of the biggest behind-the-scenes controversies of that era. WWE would go on to bury him on air for weeks, but Austin stood on business. In hindsight, he did admit that he could have handled it better, but his point was simple. If you're going to do Stone Cold versus Brock Lesnar, you gotta do it right and build it up. You make it a marquee event, not some throwaway match on a random Raw. And just like that, one of the biggest dream matches in WWE history never happened. Not because of injury or backstage politics, but because Stone Cold didn't think it deserved to be wasted. Number 6, Brock Lesnar and Bray Wyatt. When Brock Lesnar says no, the WWE listens. At WrestleMania 39, the plan was for Brock Lesnar to go one-on-one with Bray Wyatt, but Brock was not having it. Reports revealed that Lesnar outright refused to work with Bray, and the reason was pretty simple. He felt the whole supernatural gimmick would hurt his image. Think about it. This is Brock freaking Lesnar, a legit combat sports destroyer. How do you book someone like him to react to Uncle Howdy showing up in a fog machine and a top hat? There's just no natural chemistry there. Lesnar did not want to sell his spooky antics, and honestly, it wouldn't have made any sense for him to lose or win. If he beat Wyatt, it would have killed Bray's already fragile momentum at the time, but if he lost, now you've got the Beast Incarnate looking scared of the Boogeyman. So the match was scrapped just like it was years earlier when the same idea floated around for WrestleMania 32. Instead, Brock would end up wrestling Omos in a short and straightforward fight that did not risk any of his aura. Number 7, Brock Lesnar and Jinder Mahal. Survivor Series 2017 was supposed to be champion versus champion, but only one of those champions had Brock Lesnar's approval. At the time, Jinder Mahal was WWE champion and riding high on his out-of-nowhere main event push. Brock Lesnar, on the other hand, was the reigning, defending, undisputed Universal Heavyweight Champion, and he didn't like what he was seeing. Reports say that Lesnar outright refused to work with Jinder at Survivor Series, feeling the match wouldn't be believable or entertaining. Whether it was the clash of styles, Jinder's credibility, or just Brock being Brock, he wasn't interested. So the WWE made a sudden change, and on the November 7th episode of SmackDown, AJ Styles defeated Jinder Mahal to win the WWE Championship, setting up a brand new match for Survivor Series. AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar, and honestly, kind of worked out for everyone. Lesnar and AJ went on to have one of the best matches of the year, a legit dream match that delivered way more than anyone expected. Jinder, on the other hand, quietly moved out of the main event scene. So yeah, Brock Lesnar didn't just avoid a match, but he kind of upgraded the entire pay-per-view. Number 8, Hulk Hogan and Jake Roberts. You'd think that a rivalry between Hulk Hogan and Jake the Snake Roberts would have been a layup. They were two larger-than-life characters, both wildly over with the crowd, battling it out for the WWE Championship. But in 1986, that dream feud was quietly killed behind the scenes. Hulk Hogan and Jake Roberts would work a few house show matches together, and everything was pointing toward a major televised program. Then, out of nowhere, it was gone. According to Jake Roberts, the problem was that he was getting too much love from the fans. During their house show run, crowds were supposedly split right down the middle, and Hulk Hogan didn't like that at all. The idea of a babyface rival stealing a spotlight was just bad for business, at least in Hulk's eyes. So Roberts says that Hogan and Vince McMahon both decided to just pull the plug on the feud. Hogan, for his part, later claimed that the feud just fizzled out because he and Roberts simply lack chemistry. But come on, this is Jake the Snake Roberts we're talking about. The guy could make a chair look like a legitimate threat. Whether it was politics or performance, the end result was the same. Jake Roberts never got a shot at Hogan on TV, and one of the coolest what-if feuds in wrestling history was left to die in the dark. Number 9, The Rock and Shawn Michaels. This could have been one of the biggest dream matches of all time. The Rock versus Shawn Michaels, two icons, two eras, two absolute legends in WWE history, and yet it never happened. Not once, not even by accident. Why? Real life hate. Back when The Rock was just breaking into the business, Shawn Michaels wasn't the most respectful locker room presence, and The Rock never forgot how Michaels treated him during those early years. According to multiple reports, when WWE floated the idea of a Rock and HBK storyline in the early 2000s, The Rock shot it down cold. Despite both men eventually growing and maturing in their own right, the relationship was never mended enough to make a match possible. Even with the potential money and marquee value behind it, The Rock did not want to work with someone who once showed him zero respect, and there's even rumors of him disrespecting his mother as well. The fans did still have hope that these two might share the ring one day, but they really didn't. They had some segments here and there, but that's about it. Number 10, Goldberg and Chris Jericho. Back in WCW, Chris Jericho was red hot. He had the fans behind him, the momentum on his side, and he was building a hilarious feud with the company's top star Goldberg. But there was just one problem. Goldberg did not want any part of it. Despite Jericho's efforts to get the match booked, including calling out Goldberg repeatedly on TV, the big man shut it down. Why? According to Jericho, Goldberg simply did not see him as a main event guy. Even when Jericho offered to be squashed in a quick pay-per-view match, Goldberg wasn't interested. The feud that fans were dying to see was dead on arrival. Years later in WWE, the two finally did have a brief match at Bad Blood 2003, but by that point the heat was gone and the moment had passed. Goldberg's refusal to work with Jericho in WCW is still seen today as a classic case of his ego getting in the way of great storytelling. Number 11, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan. In 2002, the wrestling world buzzed with the possibility of a dream match at WrestleMania 18. We could have seen Stone Cold Steve Austin taking on Hulk Hogan, but Austin shot down the idea because he believed Hogan wasn't in the right shape to deliver a match worthy of the grandest stage, and he didn't want to damage either of their legacies with a lackluster performance. Instead, Austin would end up facing Scott Hall at that event, a match that unfortunately did not live up to expectations. Meanwhile, Hogan went on to battle The Rock in a historic showdown that became one of WrestleMania's most iconic moments, proving that sometimes the stars just have to align. Austin's refusal to work with Hogan here showed his commitment to protecting the quality and legacy of his matches, even if it meant passing up a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Number 12, Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart. Hulk Hogan's career was defined by his larger-than-life ego, and when it came to working with Bret Hart, that ego got in the way. Despite the potential for a huge WWE showdown back in 1993, Hogan reportedly refused to work with the Hitman. Bret Hart has openly claimed that Hogan did not want to risk the embarrassment in the ring. He was reluctant to lose to a smaller guy who wasn't yet an established main event star, and he feared being overshadowed by Bret's technical skills. Hogan preferred to keep control of his image and victories, avoiding any chance of Hart stealing the spotlight. Ultimately, Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart only faced each other later in WCW, where they finally squared off, but by then, the hype kind of died out. Number 13, Stone Cold and Marc Mero. Back in 1998, Stone Cold Steve Austin was rising fast as one of WWE's biggest stars ever, and he had high standards for who he wanted to share the ring with. Austin had a few matches with Marc Mero in 1996, but by 1998, he wasn't interested in working with him anymore. The reason is because Mark had been recently humiliated in a feud against his wife at the time, Sable, which made him look weak in Austin's eyes. Stone Cold just couldn't get behind the idea of working with someone who'd taken such a beat beating in a story like that. Miro was supposedly being set up as a top heel at the time, but Austin's refusal to work with him helped ensure that push never fully materialized. For Stone Cold, it was all about the credibility, and Mark Miro just unfortunately didn't meet that bar. Anyways, that is it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next video.